Moving on to some SEC action here at 2:30. We have the Oklahoma Sooners coming to T-Town to play the Alabama Crimson Tide. Looks like Alabama comes in as a 6.5 point favorite at home against the Sooners here. With this is at a 71% chance to win according to ESPN. And FYI, 87% of America has picked Alabama to win in the ESPN Pick'ems app.
That's crazy. Let me tell you why. One, let's start with stuff that doesn't matter as much before we get into the actual ball. Oklahoma's a bugaboo for Alabama. I think they're 4-2 all time against Alabama. It's not been a great series matchup for the Tide, right? Like Oklahoma kind of owns them in that regard. Two, Oklahoma is coming in and back against the wall, got to win out to get to the playoffs mode, right? Because I think if you're Oklahoma, you're sitting behind Texas in the tiebreaker, but you're looking at Texas's remaining schedule, going, okay, they got to play Georgia and they got to play A&M. Odds are they're probably going to lose one of those two games. Meanwhile, if I'm Oklahoma, this is my last road game, and I come home and I get to play a Missouri team without their starting quarterback and an LSU team being run by a clown show. That's pretty favorable for Oklahoma, frankly, to get to 10-2 if they can get through this game in Tuscaloosa. Now, if you're Alabama, how sweet would it be to ruin Oklahoma's chances at making the college football playoff after they did that to you last year? A lot of the guys that were on the team last year are still on the team this year, so that's going to be factored into this a little bit. X's and O's wise, let's start with what Oklahoma's going to do that stresses Alabama. Offensively, the quarterback run has been an issue for the Tide. It stresses that 4-2-5 defense in a way that there's no, I've seen people in the comments counter with, oh, running quarterback stresses everyone's defense. And yeah, that's true. It stresses a 4-2-5 in a lot more
Much worse
than it does other defensive
You
packs.
can't play a quarterback spy. You just can't because then you're stretched out wide, crazy. So yeah,
So,
you're right.
so that's going to be an interesting aspect to watch on that side of the ball. And on the other side of the ball, this is going to be the best defensive front you've played all year. I watched LSU's defensive front push you around a little bit. I watched Missouri's push you around a lot. I watched South Carolina's defense bow up big time. They had their best game of the year on a defensive front standing against you. That Alabama passing game has been a little off their last two games. They were missing on some open shots against South Carolina and against LSU. Miss on those open shots on Oklahoma, and that ball's going the other way. Now, what does Alabama do that stresses Oklahoma? If Oklahoma's not getting pressure, there are serious questions about that secondary. And I do not like that secondary chances going up against this receiving. It's a lot of weapons to have to cover. Got as many questions as you got. Other side of the ball, I'm a tear, man. Since the injury, he'd been soaring passes. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, we beat Tennessee and look what he did in the second half. Okay, in the first half, you were winning the game strictly off what your defense did. And I hate to tell you, you're not going to force that many turnovers on Ty. You're going to get a sack. You're going to get a strip sack in the second half. That's a guarantee. But you're not going to get two freebie picks to set up two 55-yard field goals by your swim trunk model of a kicker. Like, that's not happening. Okay? I picked Oklahoma to be a playoff team at the beginning of the year. I've been saying Alabama's going to lose at least one conference game. For both of those to be right, this kind of has to go Oklahoma's way. I don't see Auburn, with how dysfunctional they've been, winning the Iron Bowl, even if they're in a 5-6 scenario where winning it gets them to do a bowl game. And they're going to play with their hair on fire. I just don't see it. Give me Oklahoma. I think Alabama's been playing with their food a little bit these last two games. And who knows? Maybe that means they dial in. They do play differently when they play ranked opponents. But I just think this is going to be the game. They match up so well on that defensive front against Alabama. I think they get some pressure on Simpson, force some uncharacteristic mistakes. Mateer's able to make enough big plays to get them in scoring range. Oklahoma gets it done. I'm gonna take the Sooners 26-23.
So tight game there.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Oklahoma comes into this game after a bye week, which yet again another opponent of Alabama's is coming in to a game after a bye week. But when you look at
half of their conference schedule,
and it's it's whatever, I'm not going to say anything about that. That's just poor scheduling. However, when you looked at Oklahoma's last outing, yes, they beat Tennessee, but John Mateer did not play well at all. I mean, I don't care what you say. Yeah, the second half, whatever. But you still look at his end of the game stat line: 19 of 29, 160 yards passing, 0 touchdowns and an interception. They had 200 yards rushing. So that's how they won that game. And if you look at Joey Aguilar, he had almost 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but he did have the 2 interceptions. So that also helped Oklahoma get in plus territory there. Oklahoma held Tennessee to 63 rushing yards. And for a Tennessee team that is a pretty decent runner of the football, that's impressive. Now, it leads to an interesting matchup here because that's Oklahoma's strength is their run defense. Well, heck, Alabama can't run the ball anyway. So how is that strength really going to show here if Bama can only really run the ball 50 to 80 yards a game anyway? Right now, I think the breakdown on plays is about, I think it's 85% pass to 15% run whenever you look at the full breakdown of the games. What I want to see from Alabama here on the offensive side is I want to see Ty Simpson make quick decisions. When they went on that run and he was the Heisman caliber quarterback and contender, it was quick decisions. It was quick reads. It wasn't getting 3-4 deep in the progression. You've got pressure on the outside, so then you overthrow or underthrow a ball. That's what's been happening the past couple of weeks. And some of that's on the offensive line. Some of that also is on Ty Simpson not being as, I guess, confident in his initial pre-snap read to know that that's where he wants to go with the football. Now, he can make some great plays while going the second and third progression, but that's when you get in that kind of that hurry-up mode.
And some of that's also South Carolina and LSU are two of the better defensive back rooms in the SEC.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that Oklahoma's secondary is of question because I agree with that. Let's be honest with you. Joey Aguilar is not that great of a quarterback, and for him to throw over almost 400 yards, your secondary is trash. That's just what that tells me. Now, I'm not saying Joey Aguilar's trash, but he's definitely not a video game number type of quarterback when it comes to passing the football against a defense that is formidable. Now, John Mateer, like you mentioned, has been kind of iffy since he's come back. I think he's getting a little bit better week by week, and this bye week's going to do him real justice, I believe, on getting the timing back right on some of the plays. I think that's the biggest thing there. And I think on the Alabama side, coming out of a bye week, timing was off. They were sluggish. They were slow to start the game. So I think those things may be fixed as well. Just because Alabama's at home here, I'm going to go with Alabama because Kalen DeBoer is undefeated in Tuscaloosa. They've got, a 16-game home win streak, 17-game, whatever it is. They lead the country in a home win streak. It's not an easy place to play. And I think there is going to be some revenge in the mouth and on the mind for Alabama here. So, I think they're going to come out a little bit more fiery than Oklahoma is, even though Oklahoma's back is against the wall. So that's going to be an interesting matchup in and of itself as a mindset game. You've got a revenge, and then you got back against the wall. So which one of those is going to win? Which one do you want more? Do you want revenge, or do you really just can't take another loss? And I think all that's going to be played out in the first quarter, and then that's gone. Because that's like once you get to the first quarter and get in the game, all your pregame scripts, all your pregame emotions are gone. You're in the football game. And that's where these matchups that me and you talked about are really going to shine. And I think those favor Alabama when you look at the full unit. However, I would not be surprised if Bama lost this game. I just wouldn't. But here's another question. I mean, if Bama wins this game, they're in the SEC championship game.
Yes.
And remember last year, if they beat Oklahoma, and the theory was if you beat Oklahoma, you're in the playoffs. So can that mindset creep in as well? Of all we got to do is this, and if we do this, then we achieve a goal. And that's another issue there. But I think they've got that sorted out this year compared to last year, especially since the first week loss. Yeah, it should be a very, very interesting game and a fun game, one of the better ones of the weekend. And we're actually about to talk about the one that is eerily similar to this one, rankings and spread-wise. So stay tuned for that one.